Friday was the day that we packed in all of our gear that we were going to be using for the next 9 days. We decided that we are going to go to a spot that we were at the previous year where there was a lot of great elk sign. So we marched our way. Luckily, it was all mostly downhill. Got to where we decided we were going to set up camp. We went to the creek where we were going to be getting our water because there's no way we were going to be able to pack in the amount of water that we were going to need for the 9 days. So we're just going to be filtering out our water. So went, did that, came back to camp, made some mountain houses, kind of talked over what our game plan was going to be for the next day.
So the first day we get in, had a super promising spot that we were going to go to, and literally saw no elk, heard no elk, and we were just like, what is going on? We did jump a bear, which, you know, we saw so many bears this year, it was crazy, but nothing on the first day. So we were a little bit bummed because we were right where I shot the bull last year, right, you know, pretty close to where in the same area, and all of the sign that we saw in that area was literally from the year before. We saw all the same rubs, but they were a year old. We saw some newer elk tracks, but nothing within probably the last 3 to 4 weeks. Not very much, you know, droppings of any kind. You know, we could just tell that the elk weren't in that same area. And kind of my theory behind that was that because it was cooler this year, we were way down in this river bottom, this kind of creek bottom. And I think last year when it was really hot, all the elk kind of wanted to be down there. There's water down there, it's cooler a little bit, shade, all of that. This year it's been rainy, it's been cooler. So I think they were up on the mountains and they were up higher, and you know, the rut was happening up there, and where we were, there just was very little.
Day 2, we decided we were going to go a different route than the previous day. We decided we were going to make our way up this very steep, long hill.
This doesn't really do it justice. This would be looking level right in front of us. We gotta go way the fuck up there. It's really, really steep. Why does camera never do it justice? The hill doesn't look that bad on camera. But it's like hands and knees going up this hands and feet.
It was probably around 500 yards to the top, and it was probably around a 40-degree angle, so it was pretty rough, but we made it work, got up it in about 50 minutes maybe. So once we got to the top, after about an hour of just walking around, we spotted this bull that was probably 102 yards away from us. So we were trying to look at him with binos, but he had his head in a tree, he was raking it. So we decided he's not going to hear us coming, let's try and get a little closer. So once we walked up, we got to probably around 90 yards away from him, and these cows popped out 30 yards from us, completely busted us. They took off into this thick brush and the bull followed, so we never saw them again. So we kept going on, didn't have much action that day. We heard a few bugles, but nothing crazy close, everything was kind of far away. And then that evening we heard a bull pretty close to us, so we got up, headed in that general direction, got into this jack fir, and we heard a bugle on the other side of the jack fir. Now I'm not even sure how thick, like how long the jack fir was. It was a ways away though, probably like 200-300 yards away from us. And Blake ended up cow calling, and the bull came charging in. Like, he came in fast. Within a matter of minutes, he was basically on top of us. So we sat out in this little opening, looking at the line of the jack fir, hoping that we were going to be able to get this shot. So Blake went behind us, cow called, breaking some sticks, going away from us, and Isabelle was the one shooting. She was all set up, ready to go. I was sitting just behind her, ranging everything, telling her how far everything was. So the bull comes charging in, just screaming at us. He was mad. So he came just barely in the jack fir. So all that we could see was antler tips. Isabelle draws back, but she has no shot because he won't come out. he loops around and comes over to our like 3 o'clock side, and the wind gets him and he just books it. In the original video, you can't even really see the elk walk by, but if we slow it down and zoom in, you're able to see the antler tips.
So day 3, it was the bear day. So we saw so many bears this year. We hiked up, day 3 started out, we hiked up out of the river bottom where we had been camping the first few days and walked way up this stupid, terribly steep mountain and got up to where we saw that bull at 90 yards. And I wanted to maybe try and find that bull again because he was really nice, dark antlered, heavy bull, had cool crowns on him, and he had kind of a distinctive bugle. So I figured that we could probably find him again. And so we get up there, we get right to where we saw him last, and there was new fresh rubs all over, and we heard him bugle about 200-300 yards up the hill more. And so I got an Onyx and I'm looking at the timber and I'm like, okay, it looks like there's an opening in there, and that kind of sounds like he's coming from somewhere over by that opening. So we get closer and I'm like, yeah, he's definitely over in that opening. I'm pretty sure. And so we check the wind's good. I'm like, everything's set up perfect. We're on like this elk super highway, so it's super quiet walking through the woods, and I'm like, we should be able to sneak right up to him. We weren't doing much cow calling or anything because I didn't want him to know we were there. I just wanted to sneak in on him. So we sneak in and we get in there, and I come through the fir trees and come right up to the edge of the opening, and I'm like, Isabelle, there's a bear. So didn't see the bull. The bull was somewhere right there, but we saw this big bear. I'm like, I'm gonna shoot this bear. So I range it 61 yards, but I kind of had a lot of stuff in the way, and I was like, I don't think I can hit him from here. So I'm 61 and I'm kind of looking for an opening. Well, he's looking at us, but because the wind is good and because bears have relatively poor eyesight, I just don't think he really knew what we were. And bears, naturally curious animals, he starts walking towards us, and I'm like, oh, here comes this bear. So I draw back, and the way that it looked like he was gonna walk, it looked like he'd walk across us, and he was gonna walk into this perfect lane at like somewhere between 40 and 50 yards. So Isabelle's standing right next to me, getting ready to range it. I'm at full draw for what seems like forever, and he never steps in. And it was funny because at one point, while all this is happening, like you know, I'm sure it all happened in the span of, you know, 20, 30 seconds, but when you're at full draw and when things are happening, it feels like forever. But it was funny because at one point, Kaylee's like, hey guys, there's a bear. And we're just like, yeah, that's what we're trying to shoot. We know there's a bear. Like, what do you? So she had thought that we had saw the bull and that we were trying to shoot the bull and that we didn't know the bear was there. So I'm at full draw and she's like letting me know that there's a bear. And I'm like, yeah, I know. So anyways, I let down and we kind of shift over a little bit and he's right in front of us. I mean, he had come all the way up to like 20 yards, right? And so Isabelle ranges him and she's telling me 31 yards. And so I have a 4-pin mover, 30 through 60. So it's just top pin, easy shot. So I put my 30-yard pin right where I want it and shoot a pretty good shot. And one, it did crush a branch and it went high over him. So I definitely missed that bear. And it's funny because I posted a little clip on Facebook the other day that kind of made it seem like I hit it, just because I purposely wanted to be like, psych, I missed it. I didn't hit it. I suck. So, which was kind of funny. But, so anyways, I crush this branch, arrow goes over it, and I'm super bummed. But anybody that shoots archery knows that our brains are really good at picking up their trajectory of the arrow as soon as it leaves the bow. So like, for example, if you shoot target archery and we misset our sight, as soon as the arrow leaves the bow, we know that it's not on the correct trajectory to hit the bullseye at a given distance if we misset our sight, or if you use the wrong pin or whatever it is, right? So as soon as my arrow left the bow, my brain was instantly like, that's too high, right? So all day, we didn't see any elk, we didn't have any action on that day. Heard a couple of bugles, but we never actually saw an elk. We never really got close. So all day I was stewing on this fact that I just missed this really nice bear at such a close distance. And I shoot a bow pretty well, so I don't expect to miss. Now, I did have some stuff in the way, and I did end up hitting a branch, but my thought was that the arrow was already high, and maybe if the trajectory wouldn't have been so high, I wouldn't have hit that branch anyways, right? So on our way back through, hiking for the day, we come right back to where this bear was. And I'm looking at it from a distance, and I'm like, from where that bear was to where I was standing is not 31 yards, right? And so I'm like, Isabelle, did you misrange this thing? She's like, no, 31 yards, guaranteed, ranged it a bunch of times. And I'm like, I don't think that's 31 yards. So I went over there and I stood right where the bear was, and I'm ranging over where I was. And I'm like, are you sure you didn't mean 21 yards? And she was like, nope, definitely ranged it 31 yards. So I'm ranging over to where, and I'm like, I'm getting like 21, 22, right in there. So we're going back and forth. Me and Isabelle are kind of arguing about this. And I'm like, dude, you misranged it. That's why I missed it. And she was like, no, you hit a branch and just blah. And I'm like, yeah, but I wouldn't have hit the branch if you would have misranged it. And, you know, so we're going back and forth. And she's like, no, I guarantee you it was 31 yards. You just suck. And I'm just like, dude, no, I'm not gonna miss something like that at that distance. I wasn't nervous. It all happened fast. I've killed lots of animals. I've killed bears with a bow. Like, no, I'm not gonna miss it, right? And I made a confident shot. Like, there's no way in the world that I would have missed high if it was actually 31 yards. And so she goes over to where the bear was standing. I go over to where I was standing, and I'm like, dude, you're 24 yards away. And she was like, no, I'm ranging you at 31 yards away. And I'm like, my rangefinder says you are 24 yards away. And she's adamantly like, nope, right here from right where I'm standing, I'm ranging your hat 31 yards. And I'm like, Kaylee, look at my rangefinder and range this. And she was like, yeah, 24 yards. And Isabelle's like, it is 31 yards. What's wrong with you? And I'm like, dude, our rangefinders must be off or something. Like, they're not even close to each other. And so, you know, apparently she had changed out her rangefinder because she was having issues with her other rangefinder. And she's using her grandpa's rangefinder. And, you know, when we checked them side by side, they were like 7 yards off of each other, which is crazy. That's not even, you know, I've never seen a rangefinder as two identical rangefinders. They're both Leopolds and everything. I've never seen two rangefinders be so far off of each other, but the rest of the time I was like, you can't use this rangefinder. Your bow's not sighted into this rangefinder, and you know, you can't range stuff for anybody anymore because your stuff is obviously not on. So it was this funny sequence of events because I was just like, no, I am confident that I wouldn't have missed this thing. And she's confident that, you know, still even to, you know, to this day, she's still like, no, I think that you just missed it.
I bet he's still saying I misranged it, isn't he? Yeah. Are you kidding? Seriously? I didn't misrange it.
You did misrange
I didn't. It's not my fault you suck.
You misranged
No.
it.
You suck at shooting a bow.
I told you, I stood there, it was 24 yards.
No. My rangefinder said 31. I have it on camera.
Kaylee, it was 24 yards. You looked through
You looked through mine.
Dude, I'm not gonna fucking miss.
Yes, apparently you are, because you did. Yes, you did.
There's no, dude, cut, turn that off, turn that shit off. No.
He really did miss it. Anyways, after that bear incident, we had another bear incident that same day. So we were hiking back down to camp after the entire day of hunting. So it's like 500-yard hill back down to camp. It's really steep. So by the time we got back to the bottom, we had already been out of water for the day. So we were all like super parched and really wanted water. So we got down there with the life straws. I was filling them up. Kaylee was like standing there with the backpack. Blake was standing there. And Kaylee looks up and she's like, oh, bear. And so like I stand up and get my bow and load my bow really quick. And I'm like trying to find this bear. Blake drew his pistol, put one in the chamber, like getting ready for it. And the bear started walking at us. It didn't know what we were, it didn't know where we were. I think the river was too loud, so it just couldn't hear us. I'm sorry.
I don't know why you fucking freaked out so bad. It's just a fucking black bear.
So for the next like 4 days, we really didn't have much action. We got into a few bunches of elk, but they really weren't anything that we were looking for. So just kept calling, working, trying to figure out where all the nice bulls were. And then finally we found mine.
So with Kaylee's bull on, I think it was the second to last day, so day 8 for us, we were in this timber, pretty open timber, actually down lower than we had been on days before, and he was pretty hot down there. And I have, you know, in my life I've killed quite a bit of bulls, so I'm purposefully trying to target like a nice 6x6, or, you know, because there's really good bulls in that area. We were getting kind of down to the final days, and for me, I'm pretty okay with going home empty-handed, but we get in on this 5x5, and, you know, it's a pretty good 5x5, and Isabelle was holding off, I was holding off, and Kaylee was like, you know what, I'll shoot him. We gotta go up with something, like I'll shoot him. So we get in on him, and we're kind of in a spot where it's nicer open timber, but it's thicker underbrush, and we had him kind of coming in, but he wasn't committing super well. So I sent Kaylee up, and I was like, okay, you're gonna go up by yourself, and you're just gonna sneak as quietly as you can. You've got to get up there a little bit further, and I'll sit back here and I'll try and call. So sent her up, and I had actually thought that he had moved away because I hadn't heard him in a while. And she's sitting there, and I can kind of see that she's kind of looking through the brush, like maybe she sees something, but maybe she's just also looking, you know, looking to try and find him, to try and locate him. And all of a sudden she goes to hook her release, and I'm like, oh, you know, she sees him or something. And then she draws back, and I can't find him. Like, for the life of me, I can't find this bull. He just came in quietly. It's thick enough to where I can't see this bull. And so she's drawn back for what seems like forever, and then she finally shoots, and you hear a whack, and you hear him run away.
He was probably about 51 yards. I get all set up, get ready, draw back, shoot, and I execute this great shot on him. I watch my arrow go straight behind the shoulder, right in the crease, and I like am so happy. I'm like celebrating, and Blake's asking me if I got him, and I give him this like little fist pump thumbs up thing. So then I come down, I watch him, like my bull exactly where he went. So I know exactly where he went. I'm super excited. I come back down the hill and I talk to Blake and Isabelle and I tell them what I saw, that I know exactly where he went. Like super excited. I told him about my shot, told him how far it was and all that. And then Blake was like, okay, well we should go mark first blood. So I was like, okay, so we weren't able to find any blood yet. So, okay. We weren't able to find any blood. So we just kind of wait, give him some time, and my phone was completely dead at that time. Isabel's phone was off, and then Blake decided that he was going to save his phone battery because his phone was also getting low.
And I'm like, hey, you know what just happened? You know, how far was it? How, you know? And she was like, I can't remember exactly what she said, but it was something like 51, 52 yards. And she was like, yeah, I think I like absolutely smoked him. I'm like, okay, awesome, you know, where'd he go? And she was like, oh, he's just up here. I'm pretty sure I watched him go down. I'm like, oh, perfect, cool. So we gave him probably not a ton of time because she was pretty certain that she watched him tip over, but probably 10 minutes or so, 15 minutes, and went just to initially where she thought he was, and we could not find a single drop of blood. Like, we are so lucky that she saw the area that he went into and that she saw him go down because it was thick. And we couldn't find a single drop of blood from the whole trail. We ended up walking right up to him and finding him just laying in this nice, actually open little timber spot. But he tipped over, and from where he died, he only ran about 50, 60 yards. To where she hit him, we never found one single drop of blood. Not a single drop of blood. So that was kind of unfortunate. It didn't give us a lot of confidence moving forward in the broadheads that we're using, because we're using these Schwacker broadheads, and they fly amazing. They look mean when they open up. It's a mechanical 2-blade broadhead. They are pretty fail-proof in the design. They're just designed to open. They're always going to open. Very, very low profile when they're closed, so they truly do fly like field points. But, you know, on a deer, the way that they're designed is they're designed to get penetration and then open up inside the cavity. So the problem with that is you have a very small entrance wound, and you really have to get an exit wound to put a lot of blood on the ground. Well, shooting these big giant 900-pound animals, Kaylee's only shooting 55, 56 pounds. At 51, 52 yards, she's getting plenty of penetration to kill the animal, but she's not getting pass-throughs at that point. So, you know, that makes it tough. So luckily, she saw him go down. We were able to recover him. But it didn't give us a lot of confidence moving forward in the broadheads. You know, I was nervous myself. Isabelle was pretty nervous. Now both me and Isabelle shoot more draw weight than Kaylee, but we're still nervous. It did the job. It killed it really fast. Tons of internal bleeding, but there wasn't any blood on the ground.
So really lucky I watched where he went, because if I didn't, I don't think we would have found him. I mean, there was no blood at all. There wasn't even blood where he died, like where he was laying. There was nothing. But when we opened him up, there was a ton of internal bleeding. Like, it was crazy. So we ended up just getting some still pictures so we could save up our battery, and then had a fun pack out that night. Okay, last day was pretty much just a pack out day. We had a lot of stuff to get out. We had Kaylee's bull, all of our camping stuff, and we really had no intentions of hunting this day. So we're hiking out. We're not trying to be quiet. We're being pretty loud and breaking sticks. We got quite a bit of weight on our back. And we hear this bull bugle like 400 yards away. It was pretty far out there. We're like, oh, that's cool, but just continue packing stuff out. But he heard us and just kept hearing us and kept following us, because he thought we were cows, and just kept coming in closer and closer.
So we're actually hiking out of the woods, and we have this bull bugle way off in the distance, and he's a throaty, screaming kind of bugle, and he was hundreds of yards away, and I was like, I'm not going after this thing. The wind is good and everything, but I ain't going after him. Well, we're walking through this thick, nasty stuff, and he starts coming in. And so I'm like, this bull doesn't have any cows with him. He's looking for cows, and he hears us. And because he hears us in here breaking brush, he obviously just assumes that we're elk. And so he gets within like 200 yards, and I'm like, we need to make a play on this. So I had them set up, and I was like, okay, I'm not even really gonna cow call. I'm gonna do a little bit of cow calling, but I'm definitely not gonna bugle, because I don't want him to get nervous and run away. So I will do a little bit of cow calling, but I'm just gonna walk away from you guys. And he's obviously following the sound of the sticks breaking, right? He assumes we're elk. So I walked away. I got 50, 60 yards away, and sure enough, he keeps coming in, and he is screaming the whole way. And now he's within, it's super, super thick, but he's within 100 to, 75 to 100 yards. And then I start cow calling, and now he starts going nuts, and he starts running in, right? And I mean, it's super thick, nasty stuff. So he's just breaking sticks and screaming, and I'm like, oh my God, this is gonna happen. We're gonna shoot one on the way out of the woods, which is actually nice because we're not very far away from where we need to be. And so I cow call, and I had set them up in this perfect spot where they had a lane to the right where I actually expected him to come from, and then they had a small lane to the left, and then they had another kind of smaller lane kind of out even more left of that.
Isabelle.
And so sure enough, he comes in and he stands on the other side of this stump. And I mean, he's 12 yards away now, 13 yards away from them, but on the other side of this old growth stump, and he is screaming at them. And I'm 80 yards away, and it's booming. It is the loudest bugle, and I'm like, man, he is right on top of them. It must be so intense. He comes across this log, and from my vantage point, I have a video of Isabelle standing up and drawing back, and I just watch her follow him, and I'm like, oh God, she sees him, she's gonna shoot. And then all of a sudden, whack! And it, you know, because she ended up shooting him at 8 yards, and it was such a good whack sound that I was like, she either hit a tree or she smoked him. Like, I can't tell. It was a good, nice whack sound. And he tears off, and I'm like, I think she got him. Holy shit! Like, I can't believe that just happened. So I make my way up there, and they're like, he's still right there. Cow call. So I cow call, and I'm slowing down, but he's barely moving. So I'm like, ooh, she must have got him good. So I'm like, hey, did you hit him well? And she's like, yeah, I think I smoked him. She was like, he was quartered to me just a tiny bit. So I just snuck it in on the crease of the shoulder. He was only about 10, less than 10 yards. And I think I got him. So we replayed the video back right there, and you could see the arrow just dump into the crease right behind his shoulder. I was like, oh, that was perfect. You could not have done that better. You drew back in the right time, and you watch the video of him come under this tree and then stop, and he's looking at me. He never even has any clue that they're right there. And so they got a perfect video. They made a perfect shot and just did everything right. And he ended up being a stud 6x6.
And I was able to make a beautiful shot on him. It was super clean, right behind the crease of the shoulder. He was very, very slightly quartered at me, it was practically broadside. Made an absolute perfect shot, smoked him. He ran like 20 yards and stopped and got wobbly, and I thought he was gonna go down right there, but he ended up moving on a little bit and sneaking off just a little ways. And then Blake came down and we celebrated, and it was so awesome.
Get it through without touching the stick. This is a big one.
6. He's not super massive, but I don't know where he shot. Turn it.
That fucking works so good.
Cow call.
this one goes down.
I watched it. He was over there, and he turned around and he put his head down and he like started slowly walking.
I got your shot on film. I could see you. I couldn't see him.
And then you start coming up and he's just standing there. I was trying to reach him so I could just put another arrow in him. Isabelle was like facing this way, and I saw him on the other side of this block.
I couldn't see him, but I got your shot on film. So I saw you shoot, and I heard it whack, and I was like, she either fucking got him or she hit a tree the whole way over.
Come straight at us.
I thought he might come from that way, but that's why I told you.
Over here, and like turned his head, and like the other way, he was like laughed at him like I know. When I was looking other side of that stump, and I stood up and drew back, and I just held him back and walked so I got to there.
He was hot. He wanted me bad.
And then I was like, cow, because he was still right. He was just right.
That's why I said, like, if he comes through that shit, just fucking try, because he's not gonna be any more than like 10 yards.
Like behind the shoulder, like right sure. Watch the camera.
Just perfect height.
I think so. The only issue is that he was going up at me a little bit.
Yeah, but not bad. So he should have got double lungs too.
I think so.
I think he's got. Do you know the exact spot?
Yeah, right there. He's in between those.
Could you tell if the arrow got good penetration?
I think it went to the fletchings at least.
Okay, good.
I think. From what I saw.
I'm just hoping that you poked a hole in the other side.
I want to watch the video again.
Oh, that was fucking exciting. Well, shit. So people on here know we were fucking hiking out. We're trying to go home today. Alright, I'm turning it off. Anything else to say? Got him. I think he's a good 6. Oh, I was so happy for her. I mean, she was super happy, but I was probably happier. I mean, at this point, where I'm at in my life, and with how many bulls I've killed and how many animals I've killed, for me it's more about trying to get them opportunities. And I'm looking forward to like my son Levi being able to do this with me in the future, and getting my friends and family. I took my dad out a couple years and got him a really nice bull. And so with kind of the way we hunt and the areas that we've been super successful over the years. I think both girls have now both shot 4 really nice bulls. I've shot a bunch in my life, and I think I get happier when one of my friends shoots a nice bull, or any elk for that matter, any animal. I think I get happier for them than I do when I shoot one. It was so thrilling to have that bull screaming like that, coming in so close, getting her a close encounter like that, an 8-yard shot, and then just watching her just execute everything flawlessly. I mean, she didn't make any mistakes. She drew back when she was supposed to. She shot when she was supposed to. She didn't get panicky and shoot him while he was walking. She waited for him to stop in that window. It couldn't have been executed any better. And, it was awesome. But as it would be when you backpack in, I only had so many power cells that, we were running out of battery each day. And I just have these like little solar power cells. And I can't get enough juice on them each day to get my phone back to 100%. And as you guys know, Onyx Maps just burns through your phone's battery. So most of the day I would keep my phone off unless I was actually using the map to try and figure out where we're going or where we needed to go next. So we were able to get the shot on film, get everything on film, but just as was the same scenario with Kaylee's bull, we ran out of battery, and I wasn't willing to use mine to like follow blood or anything like that, so I turned mine off. I think both of theirs were dead, so unfortunately we didn't get any like good video of us walking up to the bull. We're gonna try and figure that out in the future and make sure that that doesn't happen to us, either get more fuel cells or figure something out, because we want to be able to get that video too. But we got a couple of good still pictures of both of theirs, and overall it was such a thrilling, it was once in a lifetime. I mean, hopefully not once in a lifetime, but felt like one of those once in a lifetime moments where just everything came together as beautifully as it possibly could. And the wind was finally right. I felt like this was a year where everywhere we went, the wind just seemed to be at our back. We would purposely be like, okay, we got elk over here, let's get around, wind's in our face, it's good. We would close the distance, and it's like these elks were just magnets for wind. Like, as soon as we would get close, the wind would shift, and now it's at our back, and we'd blow them out of there. And it's just like everything that could go wrong. We were getting lots of action, we were finding bulls, we were getting lots of bugles, but we just kept every scenario just kept not working for us. And so for this dream scenario to finally work, where the wind was perfectly in our face, he came in on a string, it was just, everything was perfect, and then to cap it off with such a really nice, mature, just big bull that anybody on the planet would be thrilled to have, you know, myself included, was just the icing on the cake. So, you know, it turned a long day even longer, but you know, it was worth it. So can't wait to do it again next year.
Well, 2023 elk season is officially over for me and Isabelle. We are just so blessed to have the opportunity to hunt with Blake. He is so good at elk hunting. He doesn't talk about it very much because he's very wrapped into target archery, but he is just phenomenal. He knows how to get us on elk, and every time we go out, I know we're gonna have a good time getting on some nice bulls. So I really can't thank him enough for everything he's done for me and my sister to get us on these amazing bulls and just make these great memories out in the woods together. Now hopefully we'll just get him on a bull later on, and yep, see where that goes.